Seth Stokes, 106.3 WORD News here in downtown Greenville. I am at Sobys, and I'm sitting with the owner of this establishment and president of the Table 301 Restaurant Group, Carl Sobocinski. His 20th anniversary doing business here in Greenville is coming up, and he's taking some time to talk to me a little bit about, his adventure in the restaurant business to this point. Carl, thanks so much for taking some time to talk with me. 20 years in Greenville, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's changed a lot in 20 years too. But there's some days it feels like yesterday, and there's other times when it feels like all 20 of them. But it's been great to be down here and to start out right here with Sobys, but now we have 8 different restaurants and a couple other businesses, a food truck and a catering business, and to have just watched Greenville grow up around us and be a little bit of a part of it.
Now, I know the restaurant industry is a tough industry, and it's hard for locally owned places to kind of get a stronghold somewhere and last, and you've done that. What's kind of been the difference between you and some of the others that come and go?
Well, I think the team that works with us is certainly one of the biggest components of our success. Downtown is great because it is predominantly independent operators. So we're all down here working together and trying to be a big part of our community and build this culinary community the way that we have. But the community has supported us. We've tried to stay fresh and innovative with our concepts over the years. We're getting ready to close Sobys down for about 2 weeks in January to do another kitchen remodel. We did one 10 years ago. And we have to keep things fresh and innovative. We bring in new people, we bring in fresh ideas and try not to get stale and stagnant. And at the same time we're bringing people in, we have employees that have been here all 20 years. And so that consistency helps us keep our product and our service consistent.
Now, you mentioned that things have changed a lot in the last 20 years. What have been some of the biggest changes you've noticed in the industry, these last 20?
Well, the industry, lots of changes. We went from convenience products and convenience items, if you will, in the kitchen to sourcing locally and working with local farmers and getting them to start out with 1 or 2 crops. And now we have, over 24 farmers that I know of in the area and multiple crops and year-round seasonal crops. So we're bringing local things to the table, whereas we weren't doing that 20 years ago. Wine and cocktails and spirits as a component of the meal in the evening is much more relevant today than it was 20 years ago. Customer service and hospitality, that hasn't changed. That's the foundation of what we do, and that's, in my opinion, been the foundation of the restaurant business and the industry. It's a respite, it's a place away from home for people to go and not just get the nourishment of a meal, but get the nourishment of the soul and the emotional side of things and work with our servers and develop friendships and relationships with a service member, a wait staff, or a bartender. And they come in looking forward to that. I know myself, when I go out to eat, I'm going to familiar places where I know somebody at the bar, I'll know an owner of the restaurant or a manager, and you want that conversation, that communication.
No doubt about it. Now, you mentioned working with some of the local farmers and a lot of the products, locally sourced ingredients. How much of a difference does that really make overall?
Well, I think the biggest difference is whether it's locally sourced or whether it's fresh and you're breaking the product down and making everything from scratch. And that's what we do in all of our restaurants. We probably should talk about it more. We almost feel like that's just the way it should be done and everybody should know that's what we do.
Right.
But we don't have freezers in our restaurants. We usually have one little freezer for ice creams and things like that. We're not buying products frozen and then storing them for weeks at a time and using them when we need them. We're breaking everything down, and I think that's the way that restaurants should do it. It's certainly nice now to have a lot more choices and sources locally, and that translates into a higher quality product. There is absolutely a difference in a locally grown tomato that came off the vine 2 days ago or 2 hours ago as opposed to a tomato that was taken off the vine in California and shipped across country and ripened along the way. The difference in the flavor is it's immense.
Well, not to mention that's also, community people helping fellow community members with the the local growers, and then y'all are a local restaurant working hand in hand. That in my opinion, that would just build that stronger sense of community and just scratching each other's backs a little bit.
It does, without a doubt. I just was in a meeting this morning. We've got one of our chefs that's a guest chef out at one of the farms, Greenbrier Farms, here coming up in a couple of weeks. And so the farm dinners have become very more instrumental in dining in Greenville. And the local farmers, it gives the community an opportunity to go out and see where the product's actually coming from that's being used in multiple restaurants, not just ours.
Now, there was an article that came out recently from a website, cntraveler.com. It's a travel publication. They're listing Greenville as the number 3 best small city in the U.S. And they point to the food scene and the restaurant choices in town, and calling it a food lovers town, and the farm to table scene ranking up there with Asheville, which is it's high praise. And they mentioned Gianna specifically in that. What is it? How does it feel to kind of be part of the boom in the restaurant industry here that's made this such a great vacation destination?
Well, I think it's great. It's one of my passions early on had been to not just have my own business and try to be successful, but to try to be a part of something bigger and help Greenville grow. And a term came out somewhere. We're 20 years old, probably 15 years ago. I had first heard the term culinary tourism, and I was like, Greenville needs to work on that. We need to be a destination, because I was finding myself traveling. And whenever I would travel, I would go to places that I'd read about great restaurants. And so I'd find those restaurants and see what the chefs were doing, what the atmosphere was all about. And so I think Greenville has come a long way in that. And to be recognized in the travel magazine and the numerous magazines. Today, I just got an email that said we were named again, and that may be what you're referring to, one of the top small cities.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's great and it's rewarding, and it sort of validates all the hard work that many people have put forth to get Greenville on the map. Many years ago, I used to have to tell people, where are you from? Say Greenville, South Carolina. And now you can almost drop the South Carolina and just tell people, oh, I'm from Greenville.
And they kind of know where you're talking about.
They kind of know where it is, because there's been a lot of traffic coming through here, a lot of media, and people just fall in love with it.
Now, the restaurant industry, obviously everybody knows Sobys and some of your other fine establishments that 301 is involved with or owns. But that's not all that you do. I mean, you're responsible for kind of the revitalization of the farmers market in Greenville as well. Kind of talk to me a little bit about the process that was involved in that.
I think I missed a meeting, and they said, okay, he's going to be in charge of starting up a farmer's market. No, it's not like that, but I certainly don't like to receive the credit for that. There's a lot of people that come together. Sometimes I might have a good idea, and I work with people, but this was a situation where the mayor sort of picked Susan Reynolds on city council and myself and said, we want to revitalize the old farmers market that used to be on Court Street. And we had Sobys on the side on Court Street, one of the only businesses down there 15 years ago. And so Susan and I literally got in our cars and drove up and down 25 and Travelers Rest and stopped at the little roadside stands and went into a couple of farms and told them our idea, and that we were going to set up on Saturday mornings on Court Street, and that we would set up the tent and have tables for them, and they could come sell their produce. And we would charge them $10 a week for the vendor space.
Wow.
And you would have thought we told them we were going to charge them $1,000 a week. It was like $10 was their concern point, whether or not they could come out there and make it. But needless to say, we had 6 to 8 vendors that came out those first few weeks, and we maybe had 12 booths. We had Greenville News was a sponsor, and a coffee vendor, and we had just a few different things, but the community came out, and Saturday mornings, all of a sudden, it was like the gathering spot of where people would come and meet. And now, as you know, it's grown to 2 blocks of Main Street. I can't remember the exact number, but I'd say between 40 and 60 tents out there, and different farmers and vendors. So, yeah, again, it feels good to have had a small part in some of those successes, and to occasionally have an idea, whether it's the farmer's market or a food festival or Sunday alcohol sales, or whatever it might be. Sometimes you have an idea and you go to the right people and you build a team around you, and you can make a little movement.
Now, looking, in the past 20 years, you've been responsible for a lot of stuff, but looking forward, one thing with the 20th anniversary coming up soon, are you doing anything special here at Sobys for that?
Yeah, we've got a month-long list of activities coming up in November. We're going to have, and all of it should be available on our website. But I know November 5th is an exciting night. I've got David Guas, a chef out of D.C., a good friend of mine, coming in to do a guest chef dinner, and Bob Egelhoff, a winemaker in Napa, also a good friend, is coming, and we'll release the new vintage of the Sobys private label, which is called Bella Alexis. It's a Cabernet named for my two daughters, Bella and Alexis.
That's cool.
And so we'll be doing that Sunday, November 5th, Sunday, November 12th. We're going to have a reunion of all the Sobys chefs over the years, come in and do a Sunday supper. So Sunday night, family style, large seating tables, and probably 8 or 10 of the chefs and pastry chefs over the last 20 years will reunite with our chefs that are here currently. They'll be a big part of it. And then Monday, November 13th, we'll do the Sobys anniversary party, which will be a recognition and awards ceremony for my staff first, and then a big party with Edwin McCain and friends, doing a concert out at downtown airport.
That'll be a lot of fun.
A couple I mentioned we're going to close for 2 weeks in January for a kitchen remodel. We just brought in a very good friend and talented chef that's been in Washington, D.C. for the last 20 years, and he just joined our team last week. And it's sort of that real talented, high-level, great leadership skills chef that we're bringing in as we go forward for the next 20 years.
Now, looking forward, you're bringing in a new chef, but what are some changes you're looking to make moving forward, 5, 10 years down the road? What are some of those goals?
Well, I think there'll always be opportunities and ideas that present themselves that we may not know about today. But the business has gotten big. We have about 500 employees, and one of my goals has always been to help develop the next generation of leaders, of entrepreneurs. So I've thrown it out there to my staff, our managers, our top level people, and quite frankly anyone in the organization, if they want to learn and come up through the ranks and have an opportunity at ownership, partnership, that some of these restaurants are open for them to step into and buy into, or create some sweat equity into, and become managing partners, owners, and one day own their own restaurant.
That's fantastic. Not only feeding the community, but you're employing some members of the community and giving them a chance to really make something of themselves. Yeah,
it's almost like I have 2 daughters, and that's been the greatest joy the last 12 years, is raising them. But this is almost like fathering as well, when you can take someone young and help them develop skills to be a manager, to be an owner, and to see that transition happen. So that's important to me. I can only do this for so many more years, but I want the restaurants to live on, and I want them to keep being fresh and innovative, and with the right people at the helm, creating more entrepreneurs and people to pass the torch to, so to speak, and keep Greenville moving in that direction, so that we all have a great quality of life.
Now, when you look back at the past 20 years, what would you point to as maybe your greatest success, your greatest accomplishment within that time?
Well, that's a hard one. There's so many things. I think all of the restaurants we're very proud of, and love what they've offered as a different cuisine and a different atmosphere in each of them. But I think Euphoria is probably the thing that will stand out for a long time. Creating an event that was literally an idea that started at a dining room table with 2 friends, and we said we could do it, and then we put together a small team of volunteers and staff members of both Edwin's team and my team, and we ran it out of our conference room in the after hours, and we put on this little festival one day, 1.5 days, in 2006, and now 12 years later, it's a 4-day festival with a staff of 3 and countless volunteers, people from all over the country and all over the globe coming to participate in Euphoria, and seeing Greenville and loving Greenville. And people have told me stories of coming to Euphoria, stumbling upon Euphoria, and then a year later moving here and raising their family here. So
wow,
something like that's probably been one of the funnest and greatest feelings is that event.
Now, on the flip side of that, is there anything that you look at and you just go, God, what was I thinking there?
Well, I mean, there's countless numbers of mistakes and potholes and roadblocks that we encountered. And I think the most important thing is that when you hit one and you learn from it, you know, we try not to repeat that same mistake. We did what I thought was a wonderful restaurant, and it did have a 6-year run. It was Restaurant O, and that's where Nosedive is today. But the recession really got the best of us. And not just the recession, but prior, when we opened it, and I'll try to be brief in this little story, but when we opened it, we were 6 years old at Sobys, and we were booming, and things were really good, and we were going to open. People thought we were crazy. You're going to open another restaurant across the street? But it was a beautiful space, is a beautiful space. Sobys is low country, this brick building, 100 years old. Restaurant O was new construction, tucked in amongst the Art Deco of what was the Carolina First building and the architecture of the Poinsett Hotel. And we were doing a high-end contemporary steakhouse. So different menu, different everything. But because people said we were crazy, we wanted to make sure we differentiated it. And we had too many rules. And back in 2003, I thought, you know, we could have a few rules, but customers that are coming out, they don't want rules. They don't want you to tell them what to wear and how to dress and whatnot. So I think one of the big lessons I learned was let the people come and eat how they want. Our rules weren't jacket and tie or anything like that. It was simply, in my opinion, it was simple, but it was no ball caps in the dining room, no shorts, and no printed T-shirts.
Okay.
But soon that became just fodder for people to talk about, and it was, I don't think you can go there in jeans, or I don't think you can go there in this. But anyways, it was, rules are not really what we need in the restaurant business. Hospitality is what we need. So that was a great lesson to learn.
Now, you've been a pioneer here downtown with the restaurant scene, and it's a very competitive industry. What's the camaraderie like between the different ownership groups and stuff like that, and just how cutthroat can it be sometimes?
Well, every now and then you get somebody that comes in. Generally, there's someone that comes in from the outside, sees this as a financial opportunity, and they may be a little bit more cutthroat. That's only happened once or twice that I can remember over the 20 years. Generally speaking, it's a very collaborative industry. I like to do sports analogies, so I say that my peers that are in management and in ownership and we're much like a bunch of golfers. You know, we go out, the golfers go out every Thursday through Sunday, and they want to win. And every night when we turn the lights on and light up the stoves, I want to win. And what win means is I want more butts and seats in our restaurant. Of course. And I want better reviews. I want the 5-star reviews. So we go out every night trying to accomplish that. But like the golfers, at the end of the match, they go and have dinner together and drink wine together. And we're that way in our restaurant community. We go out and we support each other in the restaurants. Occasionally we'll have round tables where we're talking about, okay, what's your biggest challenge? Is it staffing? Is it the economy? Is it pricing? And so we'll collaborate and talk about those things.
Always good to learn from your peers in that way. Well, thank you so much for talking to me about kind of the history of the restaurant scene in Greenville, kind of where it's moving and your successes, and congratulations
Thank you.
on 20 years of success here, and we hope to see many more years.
Thank you. We're hoping for 20 more.
I'm Seth Stokes, 106.3 WORD News.